Hey, so I'm gonna start working on making some more videos. I have a lot of anxiety about talking, so I'm really nervous, but I feel like it's important for me to start creating more content in this way to share my experiences as well as like different spiritual tips and tricks. And today I wanted to share an experience that I had this last weekend when I was in Tijuana. Um, my friend Lydia and we were hanging out at her space. She lives in TJ, and we were planning on taking some LSD. Um, I was feeling, a little nervous about it, and she suggested that we like go out and like while we're tripping. Also feeling really nervous about that because I'm usually the kind of person that stays at home or like I'm in nature when I trip. I don't really like go out into the city and like go to bars and stuff. It's not really my thing. And then something was telling me like you need to be a little bit more spontaneous. So I decided to go out and we dosed up, got ready, then we went out. We called an Uber and I walked up to the car, and as I'm walking up to it, I start feeling a little anxious because the windows are just like completely blacked out. So that freaked me out a little bit. But then I saw that the car had 333 on it, not on the license plate, just like it was on like the window of the car. And that specific day was December 12th, which was, 333. I'm also number three in numerology. I'm in my 3 year right now. We're in a 3 year as well. So threes have just been a very significant number for me this whole year, especially the last few weeks since I've came out to San Diego. So then we get into this car, and Lydia starts talking to me, and things start feeling a little wonky for me. Like the acid's starting to kick in. I'm starting to feel a lot of anxiety. And then this thought just like comes to my mind. And something inside of me is just like, you're going to die tonight. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to die tonight. Okay, that's wild. So I'm feeling really anxious about this because something told me that I was going to die tonight. Um, but I knew that I had to keep going. And I just kind of accepted the fact that I was probably going to die that night. Then we get to Tijuana, and Lydia wanted to show me this portal that's in the downtown Tijuana area. And we get out of the car, I go to this bar with her, but then after the bar, we go to like the center of Tijuana, like downtown Tijuana, that has this big like archway, like in the middle of it. And it's like a four-way intersection, and in the middle of the intersection, there's like this big like manhole cover that has like all these different like symbols on it. So she starts doing different mudras to like activate the archway or activate the portal. And then I start feeling this like energy, just like this like high vibrational energy just like flowing through me. Like it literally felt like I stepped into another dimension. And she told me that that was the entrance of the portal. Um, so I'm like feeling this vibration, and I'm like getting like really caught up in it, but I'm also like in the back of my head, I'm still like stuck on the idea, like the thought that came up earlier of like that I was gonna die. So I like kind of space out for a little bit, and then the next thing you know, she says "Ometiotl," and I just remember looking up, and I'm like, wait, what? And then I feel myself just like all of my consciousness just like zip back into my body, and I'm not in my head anymore. And in front of me, I'm standing at this statue of Ometiotl, and like the energy radiating off of it was just filling me up. Like, and I heard this like message just tell me like this night is important. Like you're gonna get connected to this specific deity in like these very specific ways. So then she moves on to the next part of the portal because at each corner there was a different statue that represented a different element. So then the next one was the rain god, the Mexica rain god, who is also the storm god, which is significant to me because that is my day. Like that in the Mexica astrology, that's the day that's the deity that represents me. Um, and then we went on to Quetzalcoatl, and then after that, I don't remember the fourth deity, But in between Quetzalcoatl and the earth deity that we saw, there was this stone that had carvings in it of how the gods created humanity. And it was beautiful because the way that it showed it was like human consciousness was like elote. So there was like the way human consciousness started, it was just like a little seed that was planted, and then we grow, we come out of this ground, we come out of the ground, and we reach and reach and reach towards the heavens, which is like the elote does, which is essentially, you know, reaching towards enlightenment or becoming enlightened. And I just remember just like feeling so connected not only to like these deities, but also to all of humankind, and just like feeling really like at one with everything. And then after that one, we walked up to this other stone that had an invocation carved into it, and the invocation was to connect to ancestral knowledge. And it was beautiful, and I just remember touching it, and the moment I touched it, I felt my vibration just raise up really high. My thoughts became really clear. And all of a sudden, I felt my ancestors just all with me. And I could see these like figures standing all around me. And I felt this beam of light enter through my crown. And it felt like all of this like information was just like being streamed into me. Like I was accessing all of this knowledge, like that my ancestors were just like feeding to me. And like I sat with that for a few minutes. And then that was like the last part of the portal. So we stepped out of it, and it was wild just like feeling the change in vibration from what the portal like itself felt like how high vibrational it felt. And then stepping out of it was just like we just like landed like in some like dense material. Like it was wild. And as we step out of it, my friend was like talking about how, the vibration in the portal is so high, and it's wild that like around it, like the vibration is so dense that, and things get fucking crazy, or like outside of the portal, like just right side of the portal, that in that specific location that we were at, she was saying how she's just seen some shit pop off. Like she was saying that she saw some like life or death situations just like play out in that exact spot. And as she says life or death situations, I'm thinking to myself, something gonna happen? And as I'm thinking, is something gonna happen, I step into the gutter and I feel myself fucking slip. I fell. I fell right on my damn knee, right into the Tijuana gutter. And let me tell y'all, that shit was nasty. I was covered in grime. Like old, like it had just rained. It was grimy as fuck. People pee and puke in those gutters, and I had landed directly into it. And I got a big ass gash on my knee to prove it. And I just remember standing up and just being like, why the fuck did that happen to me? Like after this portal, like after experiencing this portal, like connecting with my ancestors, they were just kind of like really working on bringing me back down to earth and like keeping me present with what was going on around me. And then after that, like the experience that I had in Tijuana was just wild, like just connecting with the people and like just learning a lot about the area and like the way that the energy works, and just really delving into the energy. Like I saw fights break out. I saw like people were like listening to or like watching zombie movies and like war movies like at bodegas, just like super loud on like these like surround sound speakers that you can just hear like zombies and like people like screaming from like across the street. um it was wild, just like all the things that like played out while we were like in Tijuana after we had left the portal. It took us a while to like even get home because the Ubers were just like lagging. It felt like we were just like meant to experience all the things that we experienced. And then we were finally able to get a ride back to my friend's house. And we get back there, and I feel like I'm just like, really cleansing myself off. I like cleanse my wound. I was really anxious because I didn't want it to get infected because those gutters were nasty. I had just grime just like seeping into my big ass wound. So then I cleaned it off, and then we were just like chilling. And my friend had taken more acid than I did before we had left. And she was like, I want you to be on my level. Do you want to take more? And I was like, yeah. So I took more, and I accidentally took more than I meant to. I was only supposed to take two more drops, but about four came out, and I had already like had it on my hand, and I was just looking at it like, well, we can't let this go to waste. So I lick it and I do it all. And I was already tripping. And then within like 20 minutes, it just kicks in. And I felt this like sensation of like just raising up super high, and it felt like somebody like walked up to me and like looked at all like my ego, like my egoic emotions, like my anxiety, my self-doubt, and all of those other things that like I've just been dealing with lately in my whole life actually. And someone was just like, you don't need these right now, and took all of them away. Any anxiety that I had, all of the self-doubt that I had, all of the fear that I had, it just went away. And I just felt the most connected to my higher self that I've ever felt in my life. And I was thinking incredibly clearly. Like I could feel my own power just like radiating off of me. It was beautiful. And um at one point we started talking about my partner and like my love for him. And when I started talking about him, I just felt like my heart just open up, and I could feel like just how important this connection is for me. And as I'm talking to my friend about him, I had a spontaneous orgasm and was like, oh shit, I think he's actually my twin flame. And I have like some feelings about like the word, like the whole twin flame thing, because I feel like that's particular thing has been used a lot to keep people in abusive relationships or just like abusive situations. So I don't use it very much. And when I use it, I fucking mean it. So I used it because I could just feel the energy, just of our connection, just how high it was, just how like pure and like real it was. And then after that, I just started thinking about like judgments that I have about other people, and just like started realizing that a lot of the reasons why I am so judgy sometimes is because it's not that I'm judging like a person specifically, but I'm like more so judging myself, because we're all mirrors for each other, right? Like all the things that we see in other people that we hate or that we love, we usually hate them so much or love them so much because we are seeing ourselves in them. And, it kind of depends on where you're at and like your self-love journey. Um, on like how often and like how much like drama and like hatred you like carry for other people. Um, and then let's see, I'm trying to remember what else happened. Oh, and then like once I was like after I started like stopped thinking about all that, I just felt like I was placed into a chamber. And I started thinking about my trauma. And as I was thinking about my trauma, I felt like I was placed into this like bubble, this like chamber, and it felt like the most intense blast of like energy work that I've ever experienced in my life. And it felt like all of my trauma, all of this armor that I carry, all of the pain that I've been in just melted away. It just went away. And I felt free for the first time in years. I felt like I could actually breathe. I felt like my body could finally rest. My body hurt because of the injuries that I've had over the last like year or so, but it finally felt like I wasn't carrying this enormous amount of weight on me. Um, and I've never really experienced anything like that. Like I've done acid hundreds of times, like over the past decade. And this is one of the first experiences that I've ever had where I just felt fully 100% connected to myself. And I could feel like my God power. I could feel like I could see like that I am a God. And not just me, we're all gods, of course. And then felt like I was able to actually like reach Ometiotli, and I met with him, like, and like face to face with him, and felt like an equal. Like I didn't feel like the way he treated me, I didn't feel like I was like this like poor little earthling, it felt like I was on his level. And I don't know, it was incredible. I just realized so much about the last few years of my life and like the pain that I've experienced the last few years, and like really looked at the energy of my time in Portland. Like while I was thinking about it, it was wild because I could clearly see my timeline in Portland just like right in front of me, and like this like trippy looking fractal energy. And I could see myself at the beginning of my time in Portland just like up here and just like surrounded by light, and then it looked like the energy just started switching to like darkness, and it literally looked like the energy of it like felt and looked like I had gone through hell. Cuz I mean, I did. The last few years had been not the hardest years of my life. I don't think anything will ever match or compared to my childhood, but at least in my adult life, my time in Portland literally was like going through hell. I felt like I had this clear image of me of like coming back from a war, just like fully armored up and just like bleeding and bruised and scarred and traumatized. And I felt like all of the armor that I have been wearing for the past few years just got removed. And I could finally feel like just how much like I've changed and how much I've learned. Like my time in Portland was hard, but I know it was something that I had to go through to get me to where I am today, to get me to become the person that I am today, because I am a whole other bitch. Like I've been like five other bitches since I moved to Portland, and it's wild. And during this trip for the first time in the last few years, I felt 100% like connected to myself and could feel my power, could feel all of the power, the knowledge, and all of the beauty that I've gained since I left San Diego. And then when I was looking at the energy of things, I could see me coming out of me like stepping out of this mouth of hell and like stepping into San Diego and like going into Tijuana, and I just like heard this voice tell me like, you're home now, like this is your home, like this is the land that you need to be on. So I made the decision that I'm gonna move to Tijuana at some point, but that's for another day. um yeah, it was just one of the most profound experiences that I've had over the last few years, and I feel immensely grateful to have been able to go through it and to just have felt so connected to my God power, as well as the deities that surround me and protect me and my ancestors. And I feel really honored to have been able to have experienced it in Tijuana, which is an incredibly magical place, and, learned more about Tijuana. And I learned that where the border is, like they used to call it the river, or they do call it the river, because there was once a river there. But because of the border and because of the like trolley system and like freeways and all these other things, like the river is just clogged. Like if you look at the San Diego River, like in San Diego, like it's not something you want to go in. It is filthy. It is just full of muck and grime. And I realized that the energy of Tijuana is so intense because when water isn't able to flow, it just stagnates, and it can create this like stagnation not only in the water but like in the areas around it. um yeah, and I think that's why like Tijuana just has this like incredibly intense energy to it. And also just kind of realize that like a lot of people talk shit about Mexico, specifically Tijuana. Like yes, like I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it is like a violent place. um but the way I see it is that Tijuana is like a mirror to like the rest of the world and like what is happening in the rest of the world. I feel like America or like the United States just has this like glamour spell on it, where on the surface level, like to a lot of people, everything seems okay, everything seems fine, like shiny and pretty. But when you really get into the underbelly of it, it's just as violent as Tijuana. It's just as violent as Mexico. It's just as violent as so many of the other like countries in this world that are considered to be like violent countries. It is just as violent. It's just bamboozling everybody and making everybody think that it's like so safe, but it isn't. And I that's why I really appreciated my time in Mexico when I traveled there a few years ago, like in southern Mexico, and appreciated my time in Tijuana and why I want to be there because it's like there's no bullshit. It's honest. It's like an exact mirror of like what is really happening in the world, not just like the violence and like the scary shit, but also the magic, because the magic there is real. The magic in Mexico is so strong, it is so pure. And I feel like it's like that everywhere else too, but because Mexico is just like this beautiful mirror, you can see it more clearly when you're there. And I don't know, it felt really like wonderful to like make all these realizations about, my ancestral land and like connecting more with it. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to share that with y'all. Thank you for sitting through this with me. I'll definitely be making some more videos. The next video I want to make, I want to share um, one of my LSD trips that I had a few years ago, where I traveled through different dimensions and experienced like death 40 times in a night. And I also want to give y'all an update about like my situation in San Diego, but I feel like I'm not quite ready to do that yet. So yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, sick.